Hello everyone, it's Joseph and Ray back again for another segment of Ask EVGA. This will be number 5 for us, and we got some good questions for you guys. First, I did want to talk about, I just got back from Comic-Con. That was a lot of fun. I actually got a little souvenir here. It's a Rocket League ball, stress ball, giant stress ball, I guess. And I got it signed by Bitwit Kyle and Paul from Paul's Hardware and Steve OMG. So that's pretty cool. We're going to keep that on the set here for you guys to take a look at. And
Paul's Hardware better than Bitwit.
yeah, Paul signed that, so that was pretty funny. But yeah, Comic-Con was a lot of fun, and hope to be there next year.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You know, basically for the Ask EVGA segments, we ask you guys to leave a comment down below asking us questions, and also give us any kind of feedback on editing or video style or audio
Turn
issues.
down the music, turn down the music, turn down the music.
Yeah.
We got that one. My bad on editing.
Yeah.
But I think we got that fixed from
Yeah.
here on out.
So we do pay attention to you guys' comments, whether it be questions or even feedback on like how to improve the videos. So be sure to leave that down below.
Right.
So just jumping in.
Right.
First question's for you, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
It's from DaBest on YouTube. And it is my GPU warranty void if I remove the cooler to replace thermal paste to change the cooler to an aftermarket cooler or water block?
Okay, great. That's a great question for EVJ because that's a big part of what we try to push. You know, kind of this enthusiast first mantra, and part of that is that you can disassemble your card, you can replace the paste, you can put a different cooler on it, you can put a water block on it if you like. We only ask that if you do that, particularly if you're going to like an aftermarket cooler, aftermarket block, just keep the original one because if you ever need to do an RMA, we're going to have you reassemble it into a complete card so that we can do a process here of replacing it, but totally fine. You know, basically every card that I've owned, I've had for several years, so at some point or another I've thought, okay, maybe I should repaste it. It's been 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
This paste is probably getting pretty dry, and so I've done that. That's perfectly fine. So we encourage that kind of creativity, that maximum usage of our products, so go right ahead. And if you have any questions or concerns about if anything's going to void your warranty, we can give you a really quick answer from our technical support, and we're 24/7, so reach out to us.
Yeah, tech support really knows what they're talking about, and it is also important to note real quick is that not all companies let you do that.
Yeah, not all companies do.
We're one of the few actually that does let you put on an aftermarket cooler or change the paste, and there is a little tamper sticker on some of the graphics cards. It's not going to void your warranty to break that seal. It's just so that our RMA department knows whether or not they need to disassemble the card and do a further inspection there.
Right. Yeah, they need to get it back to factory condition. So if it has been changed in some way or it's been opened up, they just have that sticker on there. That is a question that people actually ask a lot. So it's kind of a 2-part question.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not a warranty void if removed. It's just an inspection sticker for our usage.
Yes.
Okay, next question is from Angelo Batista on YouTube. You don't see many tech people talking about consoles. Do you guys play consoles? What about indie games?
Well, Angela, that's a great question.
It is a great question.
Yeah, thank you for that one. Yes, actually, we do play consoles, just, you know, on a personal note. It's not something that, you know, it's a little bit frowned upon sometimes, like when I first got here and I was like, oh, I have a PlayStation 4 when I first started at EVGA, and a lot of the guys were like, you know, oh, PC gaming.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm still a PC gamer, don't get me wrong, and I love PC, and I think it offers a lot of benefits over the consoles, of course. But actually, I'm a console collector.
Yeah.
I have a lot of retro consoles, and so I've got almost every color of the N64s, including the Pikachu edition. I've got, you know, I've got the Super Nintendo that has the yellow plastic, you know, the type of plastic mixture they used in the early days, and I've got the other plastic mixture and the other editions. So yeah, I've got a ton of consoles. That's a big thing in my life, and I love playing the original games in their original form too.
Right, exactly.
Instead of emulating.
Better than, yeah, absolutely. Always better than emulating. Do you have a CRT you keep around for that?
I do, yeah. Actually, I had a buddy who was getting rid of a CRT, and so I just upgraded that recently to like a much bigger one. about to downgrade that. I actually have a kid on the way, and I lost my game room.
Right. Okay. That's that's very adult of you.
Yeah.
Sad, but adult.
So my game room's already pink. I'm like way ahead of the
there
game.
you go.
Like everything's ready to go. We found out it's a girl, so
Wonderful.
super exciting. And then what about you? Do you console game?
I do console game. Started out, my parents way back in 1980. They bought a VCS Atari 2600. We still have it. It still works. It's still not fun.
There's some games that are fun.
There are some games that are fun.
2600 was
most are novelty. It didn't age terribly well, but it was great for its era. I kind of fast forwarded my sister. I have an older sister. She got an N64, so that was like my childhood. Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64. I mean, I still go back and play those because they're so wonderful. Right now, of course, I have a gaming rig. We've talked about it on previous videos, but I also have a Nintendo Switch. And that to me is a really awesome complement to a gaming PC because it's like a little portable gaming PC.
Yeah.
It's got NVIDIA hardware in it, Maxwell core. I can geek out on the hardware in there for hours, so don't let me. But I think it's a really cool little console. And again, if you're a PC gamer, it's one of those things to look at because it gives you a different way of gaming. And ultimately, you know, we're all about every type of gaming, every type of gamer, and PC gaming is an important part of that, but there's other important parts as well, and so we try to be part of all of that.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Nintendo is usually there's something unique about it. And the other thing that's kind of important to mention, which we didn't yet, but like exclusives.
Sure.
Sometimes there's some really good exclusives. I know guys here that actually buy the console when there's a particular exclusive coming out, and they're like, I got to get the PS4 now, or I got to get a Nintendo Switch now because there's this particular one game that they want to play that's, you know, not going to be available on PCs. So that's one of the big things with consoles, and why I still have some consoles today is because I can't play those games on PC. Yeah. But PC is still rules.
It is pretty awesome. I mean, you know, if you're doing a long session on a gaming console, and then you go to like your 4K gaming PC, and you're like, wow, look what I was missing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and some people aren't as much into like the details and stuff, but if you really are into detail, especially with a PC, you're going to have a monitor right up close. So when you have a 4K or high refresh rate, that's a lot more noticeable on a PC because you got that monitor right in front of you most of the time. And a console's a lot of time going to be across the room, and you're not going to notice that as much. So there's give and take. But if you play like a GTA 5 on a PC and a GTA 5 on console, you're probably going to notice quite a big difference. You're running around basically in a desert on the console. And on the PC, it can emulate a bunch more, foliage and things like that, so it fills the areas too where there's a lot of gaps on consoles. Right.
Yeah, when 2077 comes out, my face will be this far from the monitor for several days, I'm sure. Yeah,
that'll be a fun one.
That will be good.
Okay, I could talk about that forever, but good question.
Moving on.
So for Ray, what is this? Bean Boppin' Beach from YouTube.
Beach, yeah.
Asks, what's the point of a master and slave BIOS on some of your GPUs?
Yep, we do have that. Master and slave, basically primary and secondary BIOS, kind of a holdover from the IDE days where you had master and slave drives. Okay. You had to get those correct or you'd have issues if your jumpers were set wrong. Yeah, exactly. So the master and slave BIOS, for one thing, and this is not something we talk too much about on those, but it gives you a redundancy. And some of the extreme overclockers who may do a little bit of BIOS tweaking, they really like having that. So that's not one of the specific reasons that we have on there, but it is a useful little thing. The main reason that it's on there is because we can tune the card a little differently for master versus slave. Typically on the slave BIOS, you may have a little bit higher power target that you can set in like Precision XOC as an example. If you have one of our cards that has a fan idle mode, where when the card is just idling, the fans don't need to run, maybe you want those running all the time. Try on the slave, you may find that suddenly your fans run at all speeds, and it's a little bit more aggressive of a fan curve as well. So it's basically just empowering you to have a little bit more control over your card. Again, you can always tweak stuff in Precision XOC as far as fans are concerned, but for like heavy overclocking, we'll have a slave mode. Some cards will even have an LN2 mode to really push the overclocking if you plan on doing liquid cooling, or in that case LN2 liquid nitrogen cooling. But yeah, basically that's one of the unique features of some of our higher end cards that you don't get on one of the lower end or maybe reference design cards, where it just gives you that ability to play around a little bit more with the settings, and you have a backup should anything go wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that EVGA actually has so many different options for you. You know, you have the cards with the multi-BIOS, you have Precision X OC, you've got all the different options as far as cards in general, and we're really known as, you know, one of the big card manufacturers because of some of these reasons, and so we give you a ton of options, and we still cover you on warranty in so many of these cases where you might not have that in other companies. Just wanted to say that. All right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is these are actually coming now from Twitter. So here's a Twitter question. This is from DB Gaming _YT or YouTube probably. Can you mix EVGA 1080 cards in SLI if they both have 8 gigabytes of memory? I have an EVGA 1080 SC 8 gigabyte card.
Okay, well, as you said earlier, you're going to be pretty hard pressed finding a 1080 that doesn't have 8 gigs because it doesn't exist.
All have 8 gigs.
So all of them are going to have matching capacity as far as the memory is concerned. And for SLI, you sounds like you probably know this, but for SLI you do have to have matching capacity. So you can't have a 4 gig card and an 8 gig card together for some of those cards that do have different RAM capacities. As far as the compatibility with SLI, the real thing that you have to be concerned about is the height of the card matching so that you can actually attach the SLI bridge. In some cases, you're going to have, like, say, an FTW card or a classified, which is much taller, and you can't pair that with a reference card because the SLI bridge isn't going to sit on there properly. So you do have to keep that in mind, make sure that they're matching or at least very close to matching in height. And if they don't, you might be out of luck. So you can also call us ahead of time to double check that and make sure that it is something. We'll usually give you a good recommendation on that.
And with SLI now, the cards run somewhat fairly independently as far as like speeds are concerned. So even if your other card is maybe a reference clock, it's not a super clock, that's fine. They'll still SLI just fine together. If you have one with 11 gigahertz VRAM versus a 10 gigahertz, again, not really a big issue. Those can SLI together as well. And even if you were to go out and get an FTW, you could SLI those together. Again, it's not ideal. For one, it would look aesthetically a little odd because they are different heights. But you would actually have to go to a flex bridge. None of the hard bridges are really going to do that angle very well. But you could get by maybe a little bit lower performance with a flex bridge, but you could get by with it if that's what you're after.
Yeah, that is true. You can use the flex bridge. I did forget about that. But yeah, frequency doesn't matter, capacity does matter.
Right.
So make sure the capacity is the same as far as memory.
Okay, perfect.
And this one's for you, right? Okay, so at Juke, or Juke, I'm not sure.
Could be Juke.
From
Juke.
Twitter. Asks, NVMe SSD for gaming worth it?
No. NVMe SSD, absolutely worth it for your system.
Yes.
Wonderful. Like I just put a new one in my system when I did a rebuild on it. Really love the booting into Windows, opening up programs, all the rest of that. But the capacity versus the amount that you're spending, the amount of gigabytes per dollar, is still pretty high on SSDs, NVMe SSDs in particular, because they're so compact. And that, maybe that'll go down in the future and then it'll become really economically viable. But for the time being, even just a standard mechanical drive, you'll get very, very similar, if not identical performance. You may load a little bit faster on certain games. You'll get that data into your RAM more quickly, but ultimately, when you are running a game, the vast majority of that information is already held in RAM. It's already being accessed in RAM because it would be too slow to even go to an NVMe drive to make those draw calls. And developers know that. I mean, a lot of games these days are being developed for consoles. And no console has an NVMe SSD in it. So they know that you've probably got either an optical disk or you've got a mechanical drive, a pretty slow one in the case of most consoles. So they want to pull that data out of there first, get it loaded, and then run it. So I'm sure there's probably an open world game here or there that is loading in data.
Yeah.
I've heard some things about GTA 5 runs a little bit better on an SSD, but honestly, I've been using mechanical drives for years with games and no issues. And a lot of space and not so much money.
Yeah, and I do that. I pick and choose what games I'm going to
Sure.
put on a solid state drive versus putting onto just a mechanical drive.
Sure.
I don't know if the NVMe in particular would make a difference, but some games SSD might give you just that slight advantage. And so a game like GTA 5 or something that's real high
Big
demand,
open world, lot of data.
Yeah.
You know.
I tend to put those on actually the SSD until I'm going to kind of backburn them, and then I'll put them onto a mechanical and reload it that way.
Sure. That's a good one. All right, going on to the next one here. This is an odd one, but we'll ask it. This is at Morphine Bear, also from Twitter. He asked, who can eat the most green apples in 5 minutes?
Well, that's something that we haven't tested,
No.
but I think it's probably safe to say I could probably win that battle.
I think you probably could. I actually don't do that well with sour. So when you say green
Yeah.
apples, I'm thinking sour apples.
Yeah, if you said Washington apples, I would be like, hey, I'm the winner there for sure. I'm actually not a huge fan of green apples myself. I don't know why he picked green, but yeah, not a huge fan, but I could still probably out-eat you in almost any eating contest, I would assume. Except
Trying
maybe,
to slim down.
Maybe sushi, you could beat me because I'm not a fan.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely beat you in sushi because I love it.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time choking it down.
I usually, if I get a really sour green apple, I usually salt it.
Oh yeah.
Brings
It's a
out
nice
that
little
natural
balance, yeah.
sugars, actually. So it's actually pretty nice. But
Interesting. I've never actually tried that, so.
try it on if you ever buy watermelon that's not sweet.
Oh, really?
Try salt on it and make it sweeter.
That's actually a great tip. I never thought that this question was gonna bring
that
anything
way.
useful per se, but yeah.
You never know.
That's
You
a good
just
tip.
never know.
Yeah, that's why we ask them.
Exactly.
Okay, and this will be the last question. It's from the Corf from Twitter. What are your personal favorite designs that you have made? Not in terms of performance, but only factoring in aesthetics.
Okay. I'm assuming you means EVGA, so I'm going to go with
Yeah.
EVGA
Yeah.
on that. For me, we had a really cool, and I want this, and this is me getting on a soapbox saying, bring back the custom PCB high-end blower card. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I really liked the cards that had the big blower fans on it. I think we had, I want to say 680 Classified was one of the last ones that went with that design. I just like the aesthetic of it. I like things that kind of have a kind of an enclosed box. You can hold it kind of thing. It looks strong. Something about that design sticks with me even now. It was just really cool, and one of the bigger blowers I think I've ever seen on a card.
Yeah, that's a gigantic blower, and I didn't even know that, and we had that card downstairs, and I remember pulling it out, and you're like, oh, this is the one with that awesome blower, the giant one, and I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we checked it out, and I was like, oh yeah, this thing's massive.
Yeah, there's definitely a
solid
performance
card.
case to be made that the open air designs that we're going with now are far better.
Yeah.
But there's something aesthetically that I really liked about that.
Yeah, and I guess if I'm going to answer the question, that's kind of a tough one for me. Just aesthetically pleasing, I'm not sure. I really like the bean or the banana cooler, the ACS cooler, which I showed off before. That's a really cool one. The Kingpin cards, I think this Kingpin 1080 Ti is just a beautiful card.
You're gonna make me grab everything on the shelf, aren't you?
Yeah, and then
The Kingpin.
The-
Wow,
the
I always
other-
forget how heavy it is.
okay, and grab the other ones too. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just grab everything.
So yeah, I mean those tend to be probably my favorite aesthetically. The Kingpin card's just beautiful because the heat sink
Right.
just makes it really pop, you know.
Yeah, the copper with the black is actually a really classy look.
Yeah, and we've improved the design. It's got a nice little kind of mesh or whatever that looks through to the heatsink, and I really like that too. It looks great vertically mounted. And then I also have to say the white cards, the white GTX 1080 Ti's, because I'm a kind of black and white build.
Sure.
I'm actually colorblind, which you know this. So being colorblind, I tend to gravitate towards gray, black, and white a little bit more. Maybe because I'm colorblind, but yeah, I love that sleek look of just black and white.
I think I've been wanting to do like a really white with some black details build. I think that clean look is really nice.
Yeah,
and it's cool that we have cards that'll fit into that.
Pretty soon here we're going to be doing a couple liquid builds, custom loops, and we're going to be doing one with like a pastel blue liquid, and one that's got a UV white, so it'll glow in the black light. I'm going to try and get some UV LEDs too for that one.
That'll be cool.
It'll be a really nice build.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that basically does it for this week. Again, guys, please ask your questions in the comments below. You can ask them on this video. That actually helps us find them, but you can put them on any video, and we'll try to find them and try to find your questions. At any rate, we'll also look on social media. But you guys have a nice day. Get some good questions for us. We'll see you soon.